guys, it's Kathleen and today I'm going to be bringing you my August wrap up. I genuinely cannot believe that August is over. August is one of those really weird months where it feels like it goes by super fast, but at the same time it feels like the longest month ever. I was thinking about all the books I'd actually read in August this morning and I was like, holy crap, that feels like a million years ago when it was really only 3 or 4 weeks ago, and that's just super weird. Also, I go back to school in 4 days from today that I'm filming this, which is terrifying. I might already be back actually by the time I post this, so that is super scary, and I'm totally not ready, but that's a thing that's happening. But that is enough rambling, so without further ado, let's talk about the 7 books that I read this month. First up this month, at the beginning of August, I read Under Rose-Tinted Skies by Louise Gornell. This is a story about a girl named Nora who has intense agoraphobia, anxiety, and OCD. She hasn't left the house properly in a really long time and rarely speaks to anybody other than her mother until she meets a boy named Luke who moves in next door and starts to visit her, and they start to develop a friendship and eventually a relationship. The best thing about this book is how well the depiction of all the issues that Nora has and all the illnesses she suffers from is handled. So this is an own voices story. I believe the author has OCD and anxiety, at least. She might have agoraphobia as well. And Nora's illness is handled so realistically. It's really great. You get such a good sense of what it's actually like to live that way and how restrained she really is and how it affects her life to such a great extent. And that's something that I find not all books can portray so well, but this one did a great job at that. It also emphasized several times that Luke doesn't change her, he doesn't fix her, and he doesn't completely rid her of her problems. He can help her slowly in dealing with them, but she overall doesn't just get cured by a boy, which is something I really loved about this book. I loved how it addressed that. At the same time though, this is one of those books where there's inherently nothing wrong with it. I just had a hard time getting attached to the main characters. I personally didn't feel an emotional connection with them in the way I wanted to. I liked Nora and I liked Luke, but I just didn't really feel like I knew them that well. Same with Luke especially. I felt like he was just the standard, typical, understanding, hunky love interest, and he was good. He was fine. He was satisfactory. He didn't offend me or anything. I just didn't think he was that original, so I wasn't super into him, which is why this book got 3.5 out of 5 stars from me. The next book I feel like I don't even need to say anything about because you guys already know I love it, but that is Saints and Misfits by S.K. Ali. This is a story about a girl named Jana who is a young Muslim girl, and she feels like she's a bit of a misfit in her life, partially because she was recently sexually assaulted and a boy at her mosque attempted to rape her, and this is a boy that everybody thinks is super holy and is wonderful and regards as completely perfect, but only she knows the truth and what he's really done. This story is so incredible. It is an awesome exploration of rape culture, but it also has tons of amazing female friendships. Jana deals with liking a boy who's Christian. She deals with people who think she shouldn't be wearing hijab. There's lots of friendships between people of different races and religions. It's amazing. I love this book so much. It's an incredible own voices story. I adore it. I have literally nothing bad to say about it. So yes, I give this book 5 out of 5 stars because I loved it just so much. The next book I read this month was A Conjuring of Light by V.E. Schwab. It feels like I read this book a million years ago, and I think that's because I actually started it mid-July and I only finished it I think the 1st or 2nd week of August, but I really loved this book. This is the 3rd book in the Shades of Magic series, obviously by V.E. Schwab, and it follows our main characters as they're trying to fight off an evil villain who believes he's a god and completely wants to take over their land. It's such a cool story. I love this series so much. All the characters are amazing. I have a special place in my heart for Lila Bard. She's just such a badass and she's an awesome female character. My friend told me that V.E. Schwab writes her books more where the girls are Slytherins and then the boys are Hufflepuffs, and I think that's really cool and an interesting and different take on things because it's usually the opposite. So I really loved it. I love everything about this series, and I'm so happy V.E. Schwab is writing more in this universe and that she has a $1 million book deal with Tor Books. That is so freaking cool. I'm so happy for her and I'm so excited for this series and I just love it. It got 5 out of 5 stars from me. I liked this a lot more in the sequel and it's just an overall fantastic end to the series. The next book I finished this month was They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. I have a whole review for this, so I will link that down below, but essentially this is a story about 2 boys who know they're going to die because of a service called Deathcast, which calls you on the day you're going to die, and it lets you know it's going to happen in the next 24 hours, and they decide to meet on this app called the Last Friend app, which which allows you to meet someone that you can hang out with on your last day, and they might be someone who's dying that day, or they might be somebody who just wants to be a friend to someone, and they decide to have a last adventure together. I expanded a lot on my thoughts on that in my review, so I will link it there, but this was a book I gave 3.5 out of 5 stars. I did like it, and I thought the characters were really nice, and I thought the concept was so creative, but the actual plot fell a bit flat for me. It was kind of lackluster, so I will link that so you can kind of get more of my thoughts on that. But overall, I think this is a really solid book. It comes out quite soon, I believe the 7th of this month, which is super exciting, so I'm very excited for the book. No, I think it actually comes out the 6th. Never mind, I'm lying. Maybe sooner. Who knows? But this book does come out pretty soon, so definitely pick it up if it sounds like something you'd be interested in. It's not my favorite Adam Silvera book for sure. I like History Is All You Left Me quite a bit more, but I do think this was a really interesting and creative concept, so I did like it, and I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read this month, I already talked about in my little life update video, but that is Anna and the French Kiss by Stephanie Perkins. So if you can't tell from my tone of voice, this was not my favorite book of all time. This is a story about a girl named Anna Oliphant who goes to Paris for her senior year of high school because her dad has sent her there, and she complains about it nonstop, and she meets this boy there named St. Clair who she falls in love with, and everyone else is in love with him too, but he has a girlfriend, and so what will she do? Will she date him? Will she date the boy back home that she kissed one time? Who knows? Stephanie Perkins, you just keep us hanging. This was not my favorite book of all time. It was definitely not my favorite book I read this month. Honestly, this main character is so incredibly stupid. She does so many dumb things. I will link my life update video where I talked about this book a bit more to give you an idea of all the dumb things she does, but she's honestly just the most idiotic person I've ever encountered in my whole life. I do not like Anna at all. I did not think she was an interesting character. She's super pretentious, but has literally no right to be pretentious because she's an idiot. She's so stupid, and I did not like her. I did not buy into the romance. I didn't like St. Clair as a character. I didn't think he was particularly great, and he wasn't very unique, so I'm not a huge fan of this book by any means. I really just don't like this book at all, and everyone was telling me, oh, it's just because you don't like to read light, fluffy things, and I could literally point to 5 light, fluffy books off the top of my head that I absolutely love. This is just not one of them. Another person told me, oh, you just have to accept that she's a 17-year-old girl, and you know what? 17-year-old girls are smart, they're intelligent, they do so many good things in the world, so I'm going to link to some 17-year-old girls below who do awesome things and deserve recognition for being awesome. Anna Oliphant is not one of them. She's an idiot, but she does not represent 17-year-old girls. So all in all, I gave this book 2.5 stars out of 5. There was a bit of character development towards the end, which was good, I guess, but overall it was just not a good book. I don't think the writing's really that strong, and it was definitely a low 2.5 stars, leaning more towards a 2, so I really don't recommend this book. And then the 5th book I read this month was Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie. This is where my TBR totally went off the rails, and I just kind of felt like reading this, so I did. I haven't read a mystery in I think 6 or 7 years. It's been a long time, so I really wanted to pick one up, and I figured Agatha Christie was a good place to start because I really don't know a lot about the mystery genre all in all. I also really want to see the movie when it comes out because Leslie Odom Jr. is in it, and I'm such a huge fan of him, so I wanted to read the book before I saw the movie. Overall, I really liked this. It was definitely a good introduction to the mystery genre, and I see why people like Agatha Christie so much. I thought the writing was very clever, and I know that nowadays mystery detectives are very different, like they have more personality than Hercule Poirot would, but I did still like him. I thought the whole story was really interesting. I wasn't shocked at the ending, but I didn't guess it. It's one of those things where it's an ending that seems too obvious that I would never have guessed it on my own. I would have thought, oh, there's no way that could have happened. It couldn't have been that because it's just too simple, but it was that. And I actually kind of liked that. I thought it was good. So I wasn't the most surprising ending in the world, but I did enjoy it a lot. And overall, it was a pretty satisfying book. So I give it 4 out of 5 stars. And then finally this month, I read Always and Forever, Lara Jean by Jenny Han. This is the 3rd book in the To All the Boys I've Loved Before trilogy, and it follows Lara Jean going through her senior year with her boyfriend Peter as she's figuring out what she's going to do with her life, what school she wants to go to, and whether her and Peter are going to stay together. I bought this book in May, but I never read it, so I knew I had to pick it up this month because I was just going to feel guilty if I didn't, and I really liked it. I talked a bit about this in my Goodreads review of this book, and I will link that down below, but essentially it feels like one of those fanfictions where the story ended at a really nice spot, but then a fanfiction writer thought, I want to know what happens next. So they just kept writing the story. And even though it was good and it was interesting and it was fun and entertaining, it didn't have much of a plot. Plot is one of those things that is pretty absent from this book. There isn't much beyond Lara Jean figuring out where she wants to go to school and hanging out with Peter and her dad hanging out and her sisters hanging out and things like that. Like, things happen, but it's not a super exciting book. It doesn't have a very linear plot in the way the other two books did, and I think I kind of knew that going in and I was okay with it. But I do feel like I outgrew this series a little bit. That as cute as it was, it did feel slightly unnecessary and I enjoyed it, but it wasn't quite everything I'd hyped it up in my head to be. And I honestly wonder if that's because I'm a little old for this series now. It feels quite young, but I still love Lara Jean. I still love Peter. They are OTP, so I was totally fine with them and reading about them some more. It wasn't that. It just feels a little young for me, and that's kind of sad when you think you're outgrowing something you used to really love. But I did really enjoy the book, and I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. So those were all the books I've read in the month of August. I had hoped to read more this month, but it didn't really happen. That's okay though. I'm okay with that. So I hope you guys had a great reading month. Let me know if you guys have read any of these books or if you have any thoughts on them. I would love to know. If you did enjoy this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe on your way out. But in the meantime, I will see you guys next time.